everyone, Ogre27 Kane here today, and we're going to do a review of Death's Door for Nintendo Switch. Let's do a brief overview and figure out what this game is all about. So this game is brought to us by Acid Nerve Studios and Devolver Digital. It's a nice, if unique, blend or mixture of Dark Souls style combat with The Legend of Zelda's isometric puzzle solving. The game is built with a hub world, if you will, and different dungeons to solve and puzzles along the way, while having fast and unique and responsive combat very similar to Dark Souls. The game is a perfect blend or mixture, if you will, of all of these different elements, and just as you're getting tired of one, the other one comes up. The only thing that makes it a little difficult is the fast and timing-based combat can really ruin the experience for you if you're not terribly good at it. The game requires a lot of practice and a lot of timing to get down, so I highly recommend sitting down to invest some time. It says 10 hours to beat, but I'll be honest, it takes a lot more than that the first few dozen times you die. You'll realize this, so let's start with gameplay. So having the isometric top-down viewpoint of an old Zelda game really lends itself well to all the puzzle aspects it brings. Each area you explore and each dungeon you explore has their own little unique puzzles designed around the items and things that are in the area that it wants you to utilize. Now, once you destroy or defeat an enemy, get past a certain area, those mechanics aren't lost to the game. They work themselves into the next area, and each consecutive dungeon, if you will, gets more and more difficult. The thing that really does kind of bother you about this is if you put this game down for a minute and try to remember all this at once, the game has no time for you and will steamroll you. Hence the Dark Souls aspect of the game, which is completely about responsive and timing-based combat. The game is a lot of fun, but I will say that although having the world design of Dark Souls 1 almost Metroidvania-like, in which everything is interconnected and comes back on itself, it has the combat of Dark Souls 2, where it has a tendency to just throw a ton of enemies at you and overwhelm you. This is one of the most and probably the most frustrating aspect of the entire game for me, and I'll get on with that a lot more in the combat section. But as far as the rest of the gameplay elements go, the story works really well with the world and everything is blended perfectly. The interconnected nature of this world really does lend itself well to not getting lost. So let's move on to the next category, the story. So the main makeup of the story is kind of what you're seeing right here. These are the three large dungeon areas that it really wants you to explore and find everything in to complete the game. The game starts out as a little crow, from what you saw at the beginning there, who's sent as a reaper to reap a soul. After defeating said boss, he goes to take it, but then gets knocked out by the bigger crow, who then basically tells him that they're all stuck in limbo, and he needs his help trying to find the way out of here. Your goal is to go through this entire world and defeat these three major bosses, if you will, these three major areas, and unlock the secret to the world and why everybody's trapped in it. The game is a play, if you will, on life and death, but at the same time, it's put forth in a very comical and cutesy manner. The art style is absolutely fantastic, and its performance is top-notch. I never had a hiccup or issue with this game at all. But I will say that the story is trying to do too much in a sense that it tries to act like Dark Souls while still having the open-ended nature of a Zelda game. These two things kind of conflict with each other, and it doesn't necessarily put forth for the best continuation, the best momentum in the story, especially when you get stuck with one of the Zelda-like puzzles. These things being aside though, the story does its job very well, and I loved it, so let's do controls and audio. So let's start with the controls. The controls in this game are very good. They're not bad in any way, shape, or form, but the game being response and timing based does make it a little difficult on some of the mechanics to it, such as using your bow and arrow here. Just aiming at something across a room can be fairly difficult, and you have the four little shots from what you can see in the top there that require you to go break something or hurt an enemy to recharge. If you're not a very good shot with the bow, this can be frustrating on some of the puzzles, and it really can take you out of the experience. Other than that, I do like the controls and I think they work well. The audio, on the other hand, is something else we want to show off because I think it's absolutely fantastic, pretty much flawless. I never had a single issue with any of it whatsoever, and everything that the game tries to portray with its emotion and feel does a fantastic job. The sound effects work well with the orchestrated music, and everything just blends into a nice rhythm that will keep your tensions high and low at certain points. So without further ado, let's show some of this off and see if you like it. So let's talk combat now. And the combat in this game is pretty fun. I really do enjoy it. But I wish it would take a little bit more from the Dark Souls 1 cue and center itself more around fighting unique enemies. This game takes a lot more from Dark Souls 2 and has a tendency to just overwhelm and throw a lot of enemies at you. They're really fun enemies to fight, and each one has its own pattern, and there's a lot of cool things to getting into each engagement with them. But you'll notice really quickly that one of the most frustrating aspects of combat is just simply being overwhelmed over and over and over. Yes, you learn to react to this, and it does teach you how to maneuver instead of just tanking a lot of damage, but it can be frustrating. You have basically a normal attack, and then you have your dodge, and then you have different variations of abilities that you'll learn throughout the game. But the game is heavily reliant on your timing with your movement, your dodge, and your main attack. A lot of everything else you have in this game is just extra, if you will, and the game really just prides itself on those aspects. I don't mind this at all personally, but it does kind of take away from the experience that they're trying to create with this very unique and powerful combat system. The game is not really designed around overwhelming you, yet that's what it kind of tries to do. So, I don't know, take it for what you will. If you enjoy these kind of games, it's not a problem in completing the game per se, but it will be a frustrating aspect. So let's do graphics and animations. So the graphics and animation quality in this game are absolutely top notch, especially for a smaller studio like this. The frame rate is absolutely fluid, and the graphics look smooth as silk. Everything about this game screams quality, and that they really took a lot of time optimizing the Switch version. I really can't do it justice on my video because seeing this game in 1080 just looks absolutely beautiful on a large TV. This game really is a litmus, if you will, of what a smaller studio can aspire to when they're really trying to portray a beautiful rendition of their game. The Switch truly is a premier platform to have your game on, and it really does show off to other smaller endeavoring products how much the value of this game can bring. This game is touted by a lot of people and a lot of entities as a beautiful and gorgeous game and a litmus in their own rights. So I highly recommend checking this game out, if nothing else but to enjoy and view the beautiful artwork. The combat aside can get a little bit janky and it can get a little bit weird when there's a lot of things flying around on the screen, but none of these really hurt or damage the appearance of the game whatsoever, and I think the game is beautiful. So let's do conclusion now. So in conclusion, I think this game is an absolutely great value. Having fantastic artwork, story, gameplay mechanics, combat, and exploration all rolled up into a great package make the physical version around $30 a must buy. Yes, there's still a special edition which has an art book and soundtrack for around $50, but I don't know how available it is. If you can only get this game digitally, then it's totally worth your time there as well. This is a very unique game, and it's very well done. I really think that the studio needs to be rewarded handsomely for their efforts. Hopefully we'll get a second one. I don't know how well this sold, but I always love a good independent game that really shows off and highlights what a unique perspective on an old genre can do. Being a great mix really is worth it. Thank you for watching today's video. It was a blast to make. I upload every single Monday. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and have a great rest of your day. This is Ogre27 Kane, signing out.